completely off the mark here, but I think the Conservatives are going to win this next election, and they're going to have a majority government. I believe it's going to be razor thin. They might get 175, 176 seats, but they are going to win. Why else would Klaus Schwab step down so abruptly? Because there's only one person. There is only one person, one logical person to take over for Klaus Schwab, and that would be Mark Carney. Yeah, they tried to put him in as Prime Minister of Canada, and it's not working out so well for them, maybe. So I'm going to vacate my role as the chairman of the World Economic Forum. Mark Carney is the one to step in. Mark Carney, here he is babbling about an extra 100. Now, I know there's some people, some boomers out there who are buying this nonsense. And there's that one boomer in particular that you've seen out there on social media who's gone viral in the last couple of days. And we'll put up a short video of him in just a second. But who else would buy this nonsense? Listen to him talk. This is about 90 seconds worth of complete and total drivel, talking about adding an extra on top of what they already spend, these liberals, another $130 billion. And then he says the budget will balance within 4 years. Is he insane? Watch him.
In your platform, your COSSA platform you released today, you outline almost $130 billion in new spending, but a shrinking deficit over the next 4 years. How and why should Canadians believe your numbers add up?
Well, first off, thanks for the question. The numbers do add up very much. And I'd make a couple of distinctions here. What we're doing is we're taking government spending, which has been growing too fast. It's been growing at 9%, the operating spending, and we're focusing in on that, reducing duplication, finding efficiencies on through the delivery of various programs, using technology, capping the federal public service, which has grown by 40% over the last 10 years. So a series of measures that are going to make government more effective, reduce the cost of that spending, reduce the rate of growth of that spending. And then the second thing that we're doing, very importantly, so that's spending less. And the second thing that we're doing is we're not spending that amount of money, we're investing that amount of money. So we're using very limited government resources to catalyze enormous private sector investment. And that's what drives this economy forward. That's what meets this moment.
We're not spending, we're investing, you idiot. Don't you understand? For goodness sakes. Now, he's been flip-flopping. He's been going back and forth on balancing the budget, and this headline from the National Post shows that. In an interview last week, he said, yeah, we'll balance the budget within 4 years. I think he may have even said that during the debates last week. This headline says something different. Liberals promise $130 billion in new spending, no timeline to balance the budget. So what's it going to be, Mark? You guys know Whitney Webb, right? Let me throw this up on the screen real quick here. Whitney Webb. Here is a post she made on X not so long ago. Mark Carney, Canada's new yet unelected prime minister, has spent the last several years selling a new version of neo-colonial debt slavery as sustainable development. A complete snake. She said, please read my post, my past reports on his predatory endeavors. And her place is called The Hangout, and it's on Substack. So what somebody has done here is they've taken Whitney's voice and they've used AI to have her read her own stuff from her Hangout on Substack. And I thought it was tremendous. So listen to this. This is a little bit long. It's about an 8-minute piece, but it's well worth listening to. And for anybody who might be on the fence, if you know anybody who might be on the fence in terms of how they're going to vote next Monday, please drag them to your phone or your computer or your TV or whatever you're watching on right now, or share this with them and tell them to go to the 19-minute mark. This is very important information. Everybody needs to hear this.
Carney isn't stepping into power to protect Canadian sovereignty. He's here to dissolve it. This is not an elected leader with a mandate from the people. This is a banker groomed by global institutions, positioned at the helm of the most powerful central banks in the West, and now parachuted into Canada's top office in the middle of an engineered crisis. Carney was governor of the Bank of Canada during the 2008 crash. Then he was handed the top job at the Bank of England, becoming the first non-Brit to hold that position in over 3 centuries. That wasn't a promotion. That was placement. A signal to the global financial elite that Carney wasn't just one of them. He was ready for the next phase of the project. And that project is global governance, technocratic control, a world where countries exist in name, but real decisions are made by unelected bureaucrats, asset managers, and central banks.
Now, I'm going to stop it for just a second. And one of the reasons I'm saying that Carney is probably the logical one to step into Klaus Schwab's shoes, what good is he going to do as the Prime Minister of Canada? And they maybe thought back in January, well, this will be good. You know, we'll put Carney into Canada and he'll be able to get our operation going there. But now that Klaus Schwab has stepped down, and maybe Klaus Schwab stepped down because he knows Carney's not going to win. Or maybe he stepped down because he's got a health condition and they need somebody in that spot, somebody who has been following the whole plan, the whole time. A disciple of Klaus Schwab. Mark Carney is that guy. Would he be more useful to them as the chairman of the World Economic Forum or as the Prime Minister of Canada? Let's continue.
Carney has never hidden his loyalties. He's a key figure within the World Economic Forum, a trusted architect of Klaus Schwab's Great Reset. He doesn't just support stakeholder capitalism, he helped design its playbook. He spent the last several years preparing the framework for an economic transition that replaces national interest with global compliance, freedom with surveillance, and sovereignty with dependency. Carney's language is the same coded language used by every WEF loyalist: sustainability, resilience, inclusion, and climate finance. But decode that language and the reality is much darker. What they call climate finance is the commodification of nature, turning forests, oceans, carbon footprints, and even your personal behavior into financial instruments to be tracked, traded, and controlled. It's not about protecting the environment. It's about creating a new asset class for the elite. And once human behavior becomes an asset, it can also become a liability, something to be taxed, fined, or restricted. This is Carney's real vision for Canada, not protection from Trump, but deeper integration into a technocratic system designed in Davos and enforced through digital chains. He is a leading proponent of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, which are being marketed as efficient and modern, but are, in fact, tools of unprecedented control. Programmable money means conditional money, money that can be restricted based on who you are, where you are, what you say, or how you behave. Pair that with digital ID systems, biometric tracking, and algorithmic decision-making, and the result is a digital prison where your ability to participate in society depends on your willingness to comply with the demands of unelected global institutions. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is openly admitted policy. Carney has published it. The WEF has published it. The Bank for International Settlements has published it. What they need now is public consent, or at the very least, public submission.
Carney is a central figure in what's being called the Great Reset, playing a pivotal role in pushing Klaus Schwab's dystopian vision. He's a strong advocate for stakeholder capitalism, a model where global corporations, not governments, hold the power, all while cloaking it in the language of sustainability and inclusion. The truth behind these terms, including the promotion of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, reveals a digital prison, not a financial innovation. Carney's rise isn't about protecting Canada from external threats, including Trump. It's about integrating Canada into a global system that's already in motion. His vision for Canada isn't about preserving its national identity, but dismantling it entirely. Under his leadership, technocracy replaces democracy, where unelected elites like Carney manipulate policies for control. According to Whitney Webb, the technocratic future isn't a distant threat. It's already here. Let's hear more from her interview.
Enter Trump. Yes, Trump's rhetoric is hostile. Yes, his tariffs are aggressive, but that aggression is being weaponized, not resisted, by people like Carney. It creates the chaos needed to justify the solution. the elevation of so-called responsible technocrats into positions of unaccountable power. Carney steps in not as a champion of Canadian independence, but as the system's answer to Trump's disorder. But the order being offered is not democratic. It's not even Canadian. It's global governance disguised as national leadership, a managed transition from self-rule to centralized oversight, not from Washington, but from Davos, Basel, and BlackRock. Carney won't resist the encroachment. He will facilitate it. Because he's not here to lead, he's here to manage the integration, the merging of financial systems, defense strategies, digital infrastructures, and social controls. And this didn't start with Carney. It's been building for decades through trade agreements like NAFTA and USMCA, through partnerships in biometrics, cybersecurity, and cross-border data regulation. But Carney represents the final phase, the normalization of technocracy, the replacement of politics with procedure, of freedom with functionality, of leaders with managers. He doesn't rant like Trump. He doesn't posture like Trudeau. He speaks with the calm, measured tone of a man who knows the future is already written, and your vote isn't part of it. So while the media sells him as the adult in the room, what we're really getting is a global enforcer in a Canadian mask. A man who speaks for the institutions that created the financial crisis, profited from the pandemic, and are now positioning themselves as the saviors of the climate emergency. It's the same playbook: crisis, reaction, control, and behind it all is a vision of the world that has no room for national identity, individual liberty, or democratic resistance. Only metrics, only compliance, only systems. So ask yourself, is Carney really standing between Canada and Trump? Or is he helping to deliver the country into something far more dangerous, a system where sovereignty is obsolete and your freedom is just a temporary privilege, subject to revocation? This isn't about one man, it's about the machine he represents, and unless we name it, expose it, and reject it, Canada may soon become the test case for a new model of governance, one where elections still happen, but the outcome is always the same: rule by the unelected, enforcement by the digital, and ownership by the few.
Like
Mark
China.
Carney's rise to power in Canada isn't about saving the country. It's about folding it into a larger, faceless global technocratic machine that treats national sovereignty like an outdated relic. While the world's been distracted by trade wars and border squabbles, Carney and his cohorts have been quietly orchestrating the demolition of independent nations, turning them into pawns in a global marketplace. And what are they selling? Your freedoms. Under the guise of buzzwords like sustainability and resilience, Carney's agenda isn't about protecting the environment. It's about controlling every aspect of your life. And it gets worse. Soon, human behavior won't be something private or personal. It'll be a marketable asset, tracked, monitored, and traded like stocks. According to Whitney Webb, everything about you could soon be tracked, quantified, and controlled, from your diet to how often you fly, even down to your political opinions. In this emerging system, every aspect of your behavior will be scrutinized to determine if you're playing by the rules. She warns of the rise of programmable money, where access to your funds could be restricted based on your actions. Step out of line, and your bank account could be frozen, robbing you of your financial freedom. But the control doesn't stop there. Webb foresees a world where digital identities, biometric tracking, and surveillance algorithms determine who has access to what. This isn't a distant dystopia. Today's web tracking and facial recognition are the beginning, and Carney's vision promises an even more invasive future. This digital technocracy isn't some accidental byproduct of progress, Webb argues. It's the result of engineered crises, economic crashes, pandemics, and geopolitical tensions, all orchestrated to create chaos, paving the way for even tighter control. The more we embrace this digital world, the more we surrender our privacy, autonomy, and freedom, all under the guise of efficiency and global cooperation.
So what is it they're using to keep people under control? And what is it they have been using for years now, but especially these past 5 years? What is it? Write it down in the comments. I want to hear what you say. What are they using to maintain control? To keep you going where they want you to go? Michael, you're absolutely correct. It's fear. It is fear. Regina, same thing. You guys are all right. TV news, yeah, but what do they pump? They pump fear. Look at this. National Post headline from last week. New poll shows Liberals riding the fear vote. Tories winning hope as the gap narrows slightly. And the polls have tightened, in case you care, over the past few days. 42, 43, Tories, Liberals, the NDP at 6, the Bloc at 6 or 7. I expect the Conservatives will win this in the end. And I'm hoping that more and more and more people start to wake up to the reality of the situation that we're all in here. This guy won't. You could sit and actually try to have a conversation with this guy, and it never will happen. But I thought this little vignette was pretty brilliant. Let's watch this. That's the fingers up boomer from the Brampton rally, the Brampton Mark Carney rally a little while ago. Oh, and I've got one more video. I almost forgot about it. I've got one more video taken by Karima Sad and Daisy Media. Let me see if I can find it here real fast. It's funny. While I'm looking, let's throw this up here. Here's a couple of ladies who are on our side, and they can't figure out why it was terrible to fly a Canadian flag just 2 or 3 years ago. And it's awesome now. Watch them here.
The patriotism.
Like
Yeah.
2 years ago, we weren't allowed to wave Canadian flags. Now all of a sudden it's okay.
Yeah.
What changed?
Yeah.
What changed?
Yeah, you bring up a good point because I remember, what was it, 3 years ago in Canada and everybody was wearing orange and stuff like that. Now all of a sudden it's changed, right?
Yeah, you know, elbows up,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
the
it's-
people that are here are the same people that vilified the Freedom Convoy. These are the people here that wanted their heads smashed in.
yeah.
And now they're all waving their flags. You know, Canada, what do they say? Canada, what?
Canada first? Or
No, Canada First is Poilievre's thing.
Team Canada.
Team Canada?
Yeah.
No. No. Team Canada is Team Liberal, Team Communist, as far as I'm concerned, because we are going, right now, I consider Canada being captured. We've been captured, and I think what Trump is doing is he's trying to wake people up, but obviously it's not happening. Waking up to the fact that China, Canada is China's beachhead, and they're right on the U.S. border. So why are not people talking about the China tariffs? The 100% tariffs on canola, our seafood, and our pork.
Yeah.
Not a word.
Yeah.
Silence.
Yeah. No, I agree. And also, it's also saying that some people say China is the ones who produce the fentanyl as well, right? Like,
Well, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. And we have Chinese police stations in our country.
yeah.
But this, I find that people just turn on their TV and that's where they get their instructions.
Yeah.
Guys, you know, I think there's a lot of people out there who are awake to this nonsense. And I think the nonsense that they're spouting out on social media is just a suppression tool designed to keep you away from voting. Record turnout for advanced voting this past weekend. Over 2 million Canadians cast their votes this past weekend. I was one of them. I voted for Hope. Okay, I promised you that elbows up video from Brampton. I think it was Karima Sad who took this video with some help from Daisy and maybe Right Blend, but it's actually kind of funny, the music they put underneath it. So let's watch. it's fine. Hang on a minute. It's fine. That guy with the fingers, that guy is getting a lot of play on social media. But this guy here, he should get more, I think.
These are some nice guys out here.
Good grief. Please, please don't tell me those are the people who are going to decide the future of our country. Please. Oh, good Lord. Okay, is there some kind of election interference going on? I already told you, and I'm going to throw this up on the screen again earlier in the show, that yes, staff from BC or Elections BC were taking home these advanced ballot boxes during their election last fall. Elections BC allowed staff to take ballots home during advanced voting week. That has been extrapolated now to federal employees. There's absolutely zero proof that Elections Canada is allowing their people, volunteers or employees, to take home ballots for the next few days for safekeeping until they need to be counted next Monday night. We